Have you ever looked back at a relationship and wondered, how did I not see the red flag sooner? Maybe it started with charm, soft words, sweet promises, but somewhere along the line, things changed. You lost yourself, and when it was over, you weren't just heartbroken, you were exhausted, mentally and emotionally. This video might just save you from going through that again. Before we go further, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and like this video if you've ever been misled by someone wearing a mask. Because what we're going to uncover today could change your love life, maybe even your entire outlook on relationships. And if you think you've got it all figured out, watch until the end. Marcus Aurelius, one of the wisest Stoic philosophers in history, left behind timeless principles that can guide us in identifying the behaviors of low-value individuals. Yes, even in modern relationships. The tragedy of Lucius, a story. Lucius was a Roman scholar in training, humble, disciplined, quiet. He believed in honor, kindness, and the Stoic ideals taught by his mentor, none other than Marcus Aurelius himself. One day he met a woman named Vivia. She was beautiful, mysterious, full of fire, and Lucius was enthralled. At first she praised him, told him he was different, that he was the only one who understood her. He felt like he mattered, like he was seen, but slowly, subtly, things began to shift. What started as passion turned into control. Her affection became currency. And Lucius, once grounded in his values, found himself constantly justifying her actions, excusing her behavior, even doubting his own worth. Marcus Aurelius would later write to him in a letter, "Beware the soul that seeks only its own comfort, for it will consume yours and never be full." This is a comprehensive guide to what Marcus Aurelius would consider the signs of a low-value woman. Let's break it down one principle at a time. Sign 1. She lacks self-mastery, ruled by impulses. Have you ever been in love with someone who made your heart race, but your mind whisper, something's not right? Maybe it started perfectly. You stayed up late texting till 2 a.m., laughing at inside jokes, feeling like this was different. She made you feel alive. Every moment with her was electric. But soon, the spark turned into sparks of anger, confusion, emotional explosions. You never knew which version of her you'd get. Would it be the soft, sweet girl who said she missed you, or the angry, distant one accusing you of things you never did? If this feels familiar, you're not alone. And brother, that's not love. That's a lack of self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." But a low-value woman hasn't realized this. She doesn't own her emotions, they own her. She reacts without thinking. She lashes out when she feels insecure. She creates drama just to feel in control again. Let me take you back to a story, your story perhaps. Imagine a man, we'll call him you. You met a woman at a time when you were growing, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. You were reading, thinking, evolving, and she brought excitement. She was magnetic, but she was unpredictable. One day she adored you. The next day she ghosted you. She said, "I've never felt like this before," then disappeared for 3 days without explanation. You waited by your phone, heart heavy, wondering what you did wrong. But it wasn't about you. It was about her lack of control over her inner world. She didn't communicate, she exploded. She didn't reflect, she projected. And when things got uncomfortable, she ran. This isn't a villain story. She's not evil, but she is emotionally immature. And when a woman hasn't mastered herself, she will hurt the people who love her most. Think about your past relationships. Was there someone who made you question your worth more than celebrate it? Someone who turned small disagreements into huge fights? Someone who couldn't sit with discomfort without blaming you for it? You might have thought, if I love her more, she'll calm down. If I stay, she'll heal. If I just stop doing the things that upset her, she'll be happy. But here's the Stoic truth. You cannot make someone peaceful if they are at war with themselves. Love should stabilize you, not shake your foundation. A woman who lacks self-mastery doesn't need a boyfriend. She needs healing. She needs solitude. She needs to confront herself. And if you stay too long, trying to be her savior, you'll lose yourself in the process. So let me ask you honestly, have you ever stayed in a relationship because of how it felt in the beginning? Even when the reality turned into chaos? Sign 2. She disrespects your time and boundaries. Have you ever rearranged your whole day just to see her for an hour, only for her to cancel? Last minute with a casual sorry, something came up. You told yourself it was okay, that she was busy, that she'd make it up to you. But deep down you felt it, didn't you? That sting, that quiet voice whispering, "Why does it always feel like I care more?" Let's go deeper. Let's talk about your story, because I know this isn't just theory. This has happened to good men, Stoic men, men like you who give with an open heart. Imagine this. You met her when your world was starting to make sense. Your goals were aligned. Your mornings had structure. You were building, and then she came along, beautiful, vibrant, full of energy. She pulled you in with her smile and the way she made you feel chosen. But soon, things started shifting. She was always late, never truly apologetic. She'd message you in the middle of your workday, wanting to talk, and when you said, "Can I call you later?" she'd go cold. She said she respected you, but ignored the time you needed for your dreams, your discipline, your peace. And then came the subtle digs. "Why are you always so busy? You never make time for me like you used to. Work is more important than me, huh?" You tried to explain. You tried to reassure her, but you noticed a pattern. Your time was never really yours anymore. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not squander time, for that is the stuff life is made of." A low-value woman doesn't see your time as sacred because she doesn't value structure or purpose. She wants access to you when she wants it, how she wants it, regardless of what you're building or protecting. Let me ask you this. Have you ever said yes when you really wanted to say no? Ever dropped a responsibility just to keep her happy for a moment? Ever felt guilty for simply choosing yourself? That's not love. That's boundary erosion. And once your boundaries start slipping, so does your identity. You might think, if I bend a little, she'll feel secure. But here's what happens. She keeps testing. Canceling on you becomes normal. Disrespecting your routine becomes expected. And suddenly the man who once had direction is now just reacting to someone else's chaos. A Stoic man guards his time like a king guards his kingdom. Because time isn't just about minutes, it's about meaning. A woman who values you will respect your boundaries without guilt-tripping you. She'll see your time as precious because you are. If she constantly disrespects your schedule, your silence, your personal space, that is not a partner. That is a taker. So ask yourself, have your boundaries been slowly disappearing? Have you been losing pieces of your life to someone who only shows up when it's convenient for them? Sign 3. She always plays the victim. Have you ever dated someone who, no matter what happened, was never at fault? Every fight? Somehow your fault. Every bad memory? Blamed on someone else. Every ex in her past? A villain in her tragic story. Sound familiar? If it does, then maybe this isn't just a video. Maybe it's your story. A story you've lived through in silence. Let me walk you through it, because I know how it feels. You met her when you were finally starting to trust again. You had been hurt before, but something about her made you lower your guard. She was magnetic. There was pain in her past, and you wanted to be the one who finally treated her right. She told you her ex was toxic. Her friends abandoned her. Her parents never supported her. And at first you felt for her. You wanted to protect her, be her peace. But what you didn't realize was, you were walking into a cycle, one where you would always be next in line for the blame. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Stoicism teaches us to accept responsibility, even for what we can't control, because that's how we grow. But a low-value woman rejects responsibility completely. She's never wrong. She never apologizes without adding, "But you made me feel like that." And whenever something goes wrong, she collapses into self-pity, not reflection. Let me ask you honestly, have you ever found yourself apologizing for things you didn't even do just to keep the peace? You argue, and by the end, somehow you're the one saying sorry. You try to open up, and she says, "I can't believe you're making this about you." You bring up something that hurt you, and she cries, flips the story, and says you were being cruel. That's not emotional depth. That's manipulation wearing the mask of sensitivity, and over time it wears you down. You start second-guessing yourself. You suppress your needs. You walk on eggshells just trying not to set her off. But the truth is, it's not about what you do. It's about her refusal to take accountability. Because here's the Stoic truth. If she cannot own her story, she will rewrite yours. You will become her next toxic ex, her next emotional abuser, the next chapter in her blame-filled narrative. And you'll leave that relationship more confused than heartbroken, wondering, How something that felt like love became a battlefield of guilt. So let me ask you again. Have you ever been with someone who always turned your pain into their own pity party? Someone who could cry on command but never truly listen to how you feel? Sign 4, she craves constant attention and validation. Have you ever loved someone who made you feel like you weren't enough no matter how much you gave? You complimented her every day. You listened to her stories. You stayed up late just to be there when she needed someone. But still, she seemed empty. That's not because you didn't love her right. It's because she had a hole in her heart that no one else could fill. Let's walk through your story. Yes, your story. Because I know this isn't just a sign on a list. This is your life, maybe even your love story. The one you still think about when the night gets quiet. You met her, and from the beginning she was captivating. Her laugh filled the room. Her smile turned heads. She posted pictures, got 1,000 likes, and seemed to thrive in that spotlight. But behind closed doors, you saw the cracks. If you didn't text her back fast enough, she got cold. If you didn't compliment her outfit, she said, "Do you even notice me anymore?" If you spent a day focused on work or your goals, she'd post something just revealing. Enough to get attention. Not from you, but from strangers. She craved validation like it was oxygen. Not just from you, but from everywhere. And here's the painful part. You started feeling like her. Attention was always elsewhere. Other guys' DMs. Other people's praise. That next post. That next moment of "look at me." Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If her thoughts are always, "Am I being seen?" then her soul is restless, never grounded, never satisfied, never still. A high-value woman feels secure in her own worth. But a low-value woman needs others to keep telling her she's valuable because she doesn't believe it herself. Let me ask you, have you ever felt like you were competing for her attention? In a relationship that was supposed to be about you and her, you gave her affection. She wanted an audience. You gave her depth. She scrolled for distraction. You tried to build a connection. She chased a performance. And somewhere along the way, you stopped feeling seen. Because she didn't want love, she wanted attention. And attention is never enough. It fades, it has to be refilled constantly. And no matter how much you gave, it was like pouring water into a cup with a hole in the bottom. That's exhausting. That's not love. That's emotional depletion. So I'll ask you, right now, have you ever been in love with someone who was never really present with you because they were too busy trying to be seen by the world? Sign 5. She uses manipulation instead of communication. Have you ever walked away from an argument and felt like you didn't even know what just happened? Like you started by expressing your feelings, but somehow you were the one apologizing by the end? If that hit you deep, stay with me, because this is a chapter you might know too well. Let me take you back to your story. The story of a man who fell in love with a woman who didn't talk to solve problems. She used silence, guilt, and emotional games to win them. At first, she seemed emotionally intelligent. She listened. She asked questions. She seemed mature. But then came the first fight. You brought up something small, something that bothered you, not to attack, but to connect. And instead of hearing you, she froze up. No reply, no explanation. Just silence. You sent a message. She read it. No response. You waited. Hours passed. Suddenly you were anxious. You were chasing. You were doubting. And then she came back, maybe with tears. Maybe with anger. Maybe acting like you were the bad guy. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." You tried to be that man. You tried to be kind. You tried to talk things out. But she didn't want resolution, she wanted control. And here's the Stoic truth. When someone avoids honest communication and instead uses manipulation, they are not loving you. They are managing you. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever been punished for being honest? Ever had your vulnerability used against you later? Ever shared your feelings only for them to be twisted into guilt trips or power plays? That's not love. That's emotional warfare dressed in affection. You may have heard these before. "I just thought you'd care more." "You're being too sensitive." "I guess I'm always the problem." Sound familiar? You weren't in a conversation. You were in a game you didn't sign up to play. And over time, your confidence chipped away. You started keeping your thoughts to yourself. You stayed silent to avoid drama. You stopped setting boundaries because every time you did, she made you feel cold or wrong for doing so. But that's not on you. That's what happens when communication is replaced by manipulation. And I want to ask you, do you remember the first time you felt like you couldn't speak your truth in the relationship anymore? What did it do to your spirit? Your self-respect? Sign 6. She doesn't respect your vision or growth. Have you ever shared your dream with someone you loved and watched their face go blank? That looked like they didn't believe in you, or worse, like they didn't care. If that hit something inside you, don't scroll away, because this part of your story, it's the one that broke you in silence. Let's rewind the clock to when you first met her. She was beautiful, confident, the kind of woman who turned heads when she walked in the room. And you were a man with a mission. Maybe you were building a business, or trying to escape the 9-to-5 grind. Maybe you had a purpose burning in your chest that you couldn't quite explain, but you knew it was real. You shared it with her, excited, vulnerable, told her how you wanted to grow, change, become the kind of man you were meant to be. And what did she say? Did she light up with you? Or did she raise an eyebrow and laugh? Did she say, "That sounds unrealistic"? Or "Are you sure you can do that?" Or the classic, "Why can't you just be content?" Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." But how can a man keep power over his mind when the woman he loves is slowly poisoning his belief in himself? Let me ask you right now, have you ever felt like you had to shrink your dreams just to make her feel comfortable? Ever delayed your goals because she said you were too busy? Ever felt like chasing greatness meant risking the relationship? That's not love. That's fear in disguise. A low-value woman doesn't want you to grow because she's afraid of being left behind. Your evolution threatens her comfort zone. She doesn't see your ambition as a blessing. She sees it as a danger. So she chips away at it. Little comments, little doubts, silent disapproval. And over time, you start to wonder if maybe you are dreaming too big. You start apologizing for having purpose. You water yourself down, not because she asked you to, but because she never clapped when you tried to rise. That kind of woman doesn't destroy you with violence. She destroys you with indifference. Let me ask you something from one man to another. Do you remember the first time she didn't support your goal? And how that made you feel? That gut-level feeling that maybe you were on this path alone? If you've ever been there, I hear you. Drop your story in the comments. Your voice deserves to be heard, because here's the truth. The wrong woman will make you question your purpose. The right woman will pour fuel on it. And if she doesn't respect your vision, your growth, your inner fire, then she's not a partner. She's a weight on your wings. Back to Lucius. Lucius eventually left Vivia, not in bitterness, but in peace. He wrote in his final letter to Marcus, "I do not hate her, but I no longer abandon myself to someone who does not know how to hold what is sacred." Marcus responded simply, "Then you are free." What does this all mean for you? It means this. If you want to live a life of depth, peace, and meaning, you must choose partners who reflect those values. You cannot build a Stoic life on emotional chaos. You cannot find virtue where there is only vanity. And you cannot protect your heart if you're constantly justifying disrespect. This is not about blaming. It's about clarity. The low-value woman isn't evil. She is misaligned with herself and therefore with you. Your duty is not to fix her. Your duty is to recognize and walk away with grace. Because the longer you stay with someone who drains your soul, the further you drift from your purpose. So to recap, the 6 signs of a low-value woman according to Stoic principles. 1. She lacks self-mastery and is ruled by emotion. 2. She disrespects your time and boundaries. 3. She always plays the victim. 4. She craves validation from the world, not meaning from within. 5. She uses love as leverage. So she admires what you do, not who you are. If you see even 2 or 3 of these patterns consistently, it's not your job to save her. It's your job to protect yourself. As Marcus Aurelius would say, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And the people you allow into your life paint your thoughts. Choose wisely, choose peace, choose virtue. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.